Hello, hello, hello. Hola, hola, hola. Welcome to a new episode of the Yoga for All Bodies video podcast. Today, I'm super excited. I'm honored to have an amazing guest, Adrian Molina. Hello, hello. How are you?
Hi, my love. Thank you for having me. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yes, excited to talk with you and share more about your journey, your work. That, by the way, I love it. So let's do it. Yes.
Thank you. I'm super excited here. I'm happy, first of all, that we connected over the last few months. And I'm really looking forward to our training, the beginning of 2025. And nothing. It's been more than gratifying and getting to know you and see in how many different ways we are connected, how many things we have in common, besides the fact that we are neighboring countries, Argentina and Chile.
Yes, yes. And if you don't know, we're going to be teaching a 200-hour yoga teacher training completely in Español. Yes, so stay tuned. So I would like to ask you first, who are you? If someone that is watching has no idea who are you? And how did yoga came into your life?
Hmm. Well, that's a tough question, right? It almost feels like it should be the simplest question to answer, and it is one of the most difficult ones. It's so hard for me to describe the work that I do because, of course, started with yoga about 20 years ago, but it has expanded to so many different areas and so many different interpretations or reincarnations of yoga. But to put it on a timeline, I moved to the United States in 2001, became a teacher around 2004. And for most of my career, I taught yoga in studios, but more than studios, and wellness centers and kind of gym culture. And so for a lot of the time, that's who I felt I was, a yoga teacher living in Miami or New York, where I spent a lot of time. And and then with the years and experiences such as loss, grief, trauma, you realize, oh wow, I am many more other things, and I have a lot of other things that I need to work on. So if you asked me 20 years ago, the answer will be completely different. But right now, I think in simple words, I am a person who is committed to help others. In other words, in yoga words, committed to service.
Love it. Love it. And that's what's needed. And actually, that's the thing that really called my attention when I first started seeing you on social media. Um, is service. It's not, you're not putting yourself out there like, look at me, I'm a yoga celebrity, and wow, you have a big impact, a big history in the yoga community. So you could be like this, like I'm not going to give names, but some teachers are like yoga celebrities. Like
Yeah.
the thing is about them rather than service. And
Yeah.
that's key.
I
Yes.
think, and you might relate to these. One of the things that I see as a blessing is the fact that I became a yoga teacher in a pre-Instagram and pre-Facebook era. It was there, but it was not what it is nowadays. However, I did feel that in very short amount of time, because either I was the teacher with an accent or charisma or a nice person, that notion of rock star teacher started to follow me, which I always disliked.
Mm.
But from the very beginning of my teaching, and you know this, as an immigrant, particularly if you move to a different country without anybody, you are a person who's in need of connections. So for me, the practice was never about a show off
Mm.
of what my body can do or not, but it was more an opportunity to actually get out of my bubble and connect to people. It took me a lot of years to understand that that was one of the main reasons why I enjoy teaching yoga so much, because it connected me to people. And going back to your question or to your comment, I think that sometimes we don't realize that one of the main teachings of religion, many different religions, is not to be so attached to your body. And yoga has an element of that. Why is it that we're supposed to sit and meditate or do the physical posture? So then we can spend more time in service and more time connecting. But the mainstream world of yoga has kind of making it all twisted. And now we think that yoga in itself is a product. And so through life, and particularly after the loss of my mom, I realized I don't want to waste time. I don't want to spend time teaching at a very fancy yoga studios, and no disrespect to those companies. And of course, no disrespect to my students on those studios, which I love and we're still friends. But I felt the call of, I want to do something that is more meaningful for me. And that came in the form of service. And that's why I'm more interested in helping people to learn how to use yoga in a different way. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you and I and everyone watching, we're just here for a blink of an eye and we're gone. So what sense does it make to make my social media all about me and what I can do or cannot do? That's an illusion.
Wow. Yes. Yes. Powerful stuff. Powerful. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
And you mentioned that you started teaching in like the fitness world, in gyms and more. How was your experience there? And how was also did you did your first 200 hours in with that mindset with teachers who were focused on that? What can you share about that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I think that nowadays most people who take a 200-hour teacher training, they do that in a yoga studio, and then they're kind of they launch their careers, so they're teaching within the yoga studio network. When I moved to Miami in 2001, the first time that I practiced yoga was in a house with a couple of friends. There was no mats, there was no music, no blocks or anything. And my teacher was from Cuba, of all places. So I tried yoga for a while, and then I decided, okay, this is something that I like. Then a couple of friends took me to the gym, and I experienced group yoga in the context of a fitness center, and I loved it because I didn't have any other experiences. And based on regular practice at the local gym, after 1 year that was very difficult emotionally, trying to fit into the US, into the culture, into, you know, how it is, being financially responsible, finding my job, finding a place to live. I remember during those early years in Miami, looking back at my life and saying to myself, nothing positive happened this year. This was a really bad year. However, the only good thing that it was a constant, and the only good thing that I was conscious that I did, and every time that I did it, I felt 10 times better, was yoga. And so with that thought in mind, I borrowed money from a friend of mine, and I signed up to a yoga teacher training in a yoga studio.
Mhm.
But in my mind, I was not signing up to teach yoga. I wanted to learn, because it was a practice that helped me during very difficult times. I didn't feel comfortable speaking English, not that I feel very comfortable now either, but I wanted to learn for myself. And so I finished the teacher training. I didn't want to teach. I was working in a bakery of all places. And one of my clients was a yoga teacher who used to teach at Crunch, which is one of the local chains in the US. And one day she asked me, can you sub a class for me? And I was terrified, but I did it. And from there, I went to the competition. And then I stayed on the competition from that first local gym for more than 15 years. So my
Wow.
experience in the world of yoga studios is very limited. But with that being said, I was always very clear about what yoga was and what yoga wasn't. So one of the things that I heard over the years from my students is that I had the ability of making the classes on the gym culture feel as if they were yoga studio classes.
Mm-hmm.
So I have very little experience in yoga studios. And between you and I like it that way.
Amazing. Yes. Love it. Wow. Love the story. And I can relate. When you mentioned the thing about the accent, absolutely. Yes. When I first started teaching, for me, it was like, are they going to understand what I'm going to be saying? And as a Chilena, I speak really fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to say, okay, okay. And I get excited and I speak even faster. So yes, I can absolutely relate. Wow, love it.
You know, you made me think of a story of I was teaching a regular class for many years, same day, same time. And, you know, some people might travel for a year, then come back. And at the end of the one class, I remember this lady, very sweet, okay? No harm intended. But at the end of the class, she come back, she come to me and said, "Oh, wow, Adrian, this was amazing. I remember when you first started. This is the first class that I understand what you're saying." And I was like, "All right. Should I say thank you or should I?" Yeah, it was very interesting. But yeah, I guess there was a little
Yes.
bit of love in there.
Yes. And super important, if you're watching this interview, if you're an immigrant, if you feel called to teach in a language that is not your first language, do it. Do it. Embrace the things that make you you at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's such a good message, Natalia, because you and I were lucky that we are in the United States, but you and I are both aware that when we look at the expansion of yoga in Central America and South America and other Spanish-speaking countries, it almost feels like a delay. I remember when I was a kid, like a movie will come out in the movie theater in the US and it will take a year or two to get back to my country. And so there was always kind of delay. And I guess this is my way of saying, if you are someone who speaks Spanish and you are connected to the practice in more ways than words can describe, um, I think that when we feel that call within ourselves, uh, it's almost a responsibility to take action. And that brings me to the topic of the teacher training that we're doing. We're doing this teacher training in Spanish because we
Mhm.
look back where we come from and we see that the yoga that's being offered lacks a lot of the conscious awareness, a lot of the uh, subtleties of the practice, and in basic words, a lot of the kindness to our bodies, which is basically what you do, Natalia, teaching people to be kind to their bodies. So for anyone interested in our fellow Hispanic countries, take the call. Take the call. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. When we first started talking about hosting this 200 hour in completely in Español, I had no idea about the program. I had no idea about anything, but I knew that we needed to do it. So I
Yeah.
said, yes, yes, because sometimes, not sometimes, actually always, as you were mentioning, it's like we receive the translation of something, the short, the abstract of the whole study. No, no. And if we are doing this in English and super humble, but we are really good in what we do, why not
Yeah.
do it in Español?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's empowering for I mean, I'm talking about you and I because we're doing the podcast now, but every teacher who every Latino teacher who makes it in the US and has a voice and is teaching, kudos to them, because you and I, we know how
Yes.
difficult it is. And so again, I come back to the concept of it is a responsibility to give back and to elevate voices. And so I'm really looking forward to that. And also selfishly, I'm looking forward to reconnect to a language that, for whatever reasons, I mean, I know the reasons. I live in the US and my partner doesn't speak Spanish. But other than the few members of the family that I still have, I don't practice Spanish. And so I look forward with that, to that opportunity to relearn yoga, and I don't know how you say it, my lengua materna,
En mi lengua
my mother
materna.
tongue. I don't know how you say it. But I'm looking forward to do that, because all my education, and I'm grateful about my education, but everything that I learn about body movement, anatomy, happened in this country in English. And so if you ask me this moment to teach a full class in yoga, I can do that, but I know that I need more practice. So I'm taking this 200-hour teacher training as an opportunity to internally connect to my roots once again, and hopefully inspire, along with you, Natalia, a lot of the people in our countries.
Absolutely, yes. I also did my main trainings were in English. So when I started, because I do everything in English and Spanish on my social media, my YouTube channel, but when I first started teaching in Español, it's challenging. So I had to prepare, okay, how do you say flexión delantera? That is our forward fold in English. And it's called differently according the part of the world that you're speaking Spanish. So it's challenging. Yes.
I mean, kudos to you. I don't know how you do that. I mean, you have an amazing marketing style, and on top of that, you do it in English and Spanish. I mean, I can have ChatGPT, all the artificial intelligence in the world, and I'm still not able to put a sentence together. But I know that I'm going to be more than ready for 2025.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Love it. And if someone that is watching this interview has no idea about the Warrior Flow School, that is the school that you founded, in short words, how would you explain and what it makes it different from other alternatives out there?
That's a good question, and and it's hard for me to speak in short words, but I try my best.
Go ahead, go ahead.
So just to give you context, so I did become a yoga teacher in Miami, and very quickly I moved to Manhattan, and so I was working for one of these big companies with a lot of locations around the island, and it was a very competitive place to be, even within the context of yoga, because everyone wanted to be the best. Everyone wanted to get more classes to make more money. And so we were giving classes based on, of course, how many people will come to the class, how many members will request to have more classes from us, from me at least. And so I grew up as a teacher with that mentality. I need to perform, I need to do better, I need to make sure that I'm teaching enough classes to pay my bills. And so with that realization, once I had a lot of classes, at my peak, I was teaching anywhere between 30 to 35 yoga classes a week.
Wow.
Plus my private client, that's anywhere between 10 to 12 other hours. But what happened to me is that the more I was immersed into that culture of, teaching yoga, but also being aware that everyone is against one another, competing in one way. And this could be just a reflection of the gym culture, or I don't know, might be something that happens in yoga studios as well. The realization came to me that I'm tired of being labeled, oh, this yoga is this yoga is that. And I was very curious about learning about other things. I was curious about practicing Ashtanga, curious about practicing Kundalini, curious about taking Pilates classes. And at the moment that I felt that I have enough leverage and this is important for any yoga teacher, when you feel that you have enough leverage, whether to get more classes, whether to get a raise, advocate for yourself. And so I advocated for myself, and I said, my thinking was something along these lines. I'm tired of all this BS. I don't want to be compared to any other yoga teacher. In fact, let me rename my class instead of Power 60, Vinyasa 90, Slow Flow, all of that, Warrior Flow. So because I was a well-recognized teacher in the country, they accepted my petition. And so in every schedule across what I was teaching, instead of saying yoga, it will say Warrior Flow. And then after a couple of years, I trademarked the name. That's on my t-shirts, on my heart. Hopefully one day and a tattoo. But the main origin of the school was just to differentiate from the competitive part of yoga and be more connected to the community that happens every time the yoga practice together. I don't know if it's your experience, but I noticed that after my classes, people will stay, people will start talking, people will become friends. I have people that I met in my classes, and this gives me goosebumps as I'm saying it. People that have become friends 20 years ago, and they're still friends from my classes, or they met in my classes. And so that's one piece of the story. And the later part of the story of Warrior Flow and what do we do, and I'm coming back to that important part of my life when I lost my mom. I realized that life is too short. I realized that we have forgotten how to help others. And what sense does it make to learn all this yoga, all these books, all these postures, if you're not actually making an impact in the world? And so upon those reflections, I learned trauma-informed yoga. I became very interested in working with first responders, law enforcement, and hospitals. And now when people, it's hard for me to speak on behalf of other people, but I have the idea that when people look at what we do, they see a community effort. But it was basically, the seed was me trying to figure it out. Is there any more meaning to this? How can I help? I don't know if that makes sense. Definitely not short words in there.
No, but every word was needed.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
love it, love it. Yes, yes. I speaking from the outside, yes. That's how it shows. So thank you, love it, love the story. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for sharing.
It means a lot coming from you.
Thank you. And yes, so super important if you're watching, advocate for what you're doing. Sometimes, especially if we are in the studio settings, we are like given, like you have to teach this, and that's the class description. And sometimes it doesn't really reflect what we want to do. Speak up, speak up. Yes.
Yeah, that is such an important message because, we need to honor the traditions where yoga comes from, but we also need to acknowledge that yoga comes from a very male-oriented tradition, from a guru-disciple relationship, from someone telling you what to do, from someone deciding when you are ready to do this, from someone making choices for you. And that's, if you think about it, when we talk about yoga sensible or trauma-informed yoga, this is exactly the part where we depart from the culture of yoga, male-oriented tradition, lineage. We are all about what you do, Natalia, what I do, what we're going to be doing together is empowering people to advocate for themselves, whether they are in a large body, whether they have been, whether they have struggled with anxiety, depression, or any of that. We know that when people struggle, and we all struggle in different ways, there is nothing more beautiful and more healing than getting our voice back. So when yoga teachers realize, oh wow, part of my role is to give the voice back to to my students, so then the students can heal from whatever challenges they have gone through. I think that's what Natalia and I, we see different than other studios. And so, yes, when you show up to a yoga studio, one of the perception is that the person in front of the room is the person in charge, the person in power. But you were watching this podcast, you know that the only person in power is you. So you're only going to do things that they feel good to your body, and you are going to decide when things are not serving for you, whether movement, breath, or anything like that. The more we advocate, the more we empower other people to advocate. And it's a domino effect. So don't miss that opportunity. Yeah.
Love it. Yes, 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 yes. And to start closing up, there's a question that I always ask the guests. What is your favorite yoga prop and why? Only one.
Oh, that is almost like it changes like my underwear, and I do shower every day. But these days, Natalia, oops, this is one of my favorite props these days.
Oh,
You know what this is?
for the neck or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I lie on my back there, and then I use this neck supporter. And basically what it does, and you can use it one way or the other way, depending on how much you want to emphasize the cervical curvature. It feels very nice. Like for us, that we are most of the time talking to the microphone or being seated, when I lie on my back and put my neck in there, it almost feels like someone is lifting you up. So I would say that this is one of my favorite props these days. Yes, this one.
Love it. Love it. Thanks for sharing that. Yes.
And FYI, if anyone is interested, it's actually funny. My dog chewed a little piece of it. But you can find it on Amazon. Put foam neck support or something like that, and it's a reasonable price.
Love it. Love it. And finally, how can people find you and know more about the Warrior Flow Yoga School?
We're trying to be everywhere, like you, Natalia. We're trying to spread the word as much as we can. The easiest way is Warrior Flow Official on Instagram. You can find Warrior Flow School on YouTube, Warrior Flow School on Spotify, Warrior Flow on Facebook, Warrior Flow on TikTok, Warrior Flow, I don't know, Twitter or X, whatever it's called right now. And just know that if you reach out to me via Warrior Flow Official and Instagram, I am the one who does the social media, like Natalia does her own. I do my Instagram only. And so I'm always a message away. But yeah, any of those, anywhere where you find us, you can contact me. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story, your passion, and everybody is invited to go check out the Warrior Flow Yoga School and sign up for the training in Español. And I'm sure we're going to get this question: if someone is learning Spanish, can they join the training? Yes, they can, right?
Yes.
Everybody's invited.
Yes. And adding into that, and I promise I'll be quick, anyone who speaks Spanish, everyone who's learning Spanish can do that. Doesn't matter if you're in a Hispanic country or not. We have a lot of friends in the US who prefer to learn in Spanish, although their works are in English. And also we are very accommodating with anyone with learning disabilities, anyone on the neurodivergent world. So we go the extra mile to accommodate those who would usually will feel unwelcome in yoga spaces. So don't be afraid of reaching out if that is your case, learning disabilities and stuff like that. And also we have a 6 installment plan payment. And so
super important.
We also offer scholarships, of course.
Amazing. So there you have it, all the information. Everybody is invited. Thank you so much, Adrian, for this interview, and see you. See you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
my
for
love.
watching. Thank you, everybody, for watching. A
Thank you.
big hug. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.